professionals, the nonprofit organizations, the advocacy groups, and government leaders. Stepping back from trying to deploy the media on these particular topics, I would say that we all have an obligation to think about the next generation of journalists who cover these topics. And so we do a lot of training for journalists to help them learn how to cover these important stories, the language they need to use, the experts they need to rely on for these kinds of stories. And my last recommendation is that journalism is incredibly important to these topics. And so when you think about commercial organizations and who produce news, I'd encourage you to subscribe to those organizations to enable them to do their jobs. I run a nonprofit news organization covering religion, and we are constantly in the market looking for support, financial support. And so when I listen to Sheikh bin Bayan talk about the need for journalists to cover important stories and the positive angle on these stories, I completely agree. And at the same time, we're in the market encouraging people to support our work as professional journalists to enable us to expand our coverage, to enable us to hire additional journalists to cover parts of the world that don't get a lot of objective reporting. So I'd like to end those comments here, and I'd be happy to take questions later and after the presentation.
Thank you very much, Tom. Now, Larry, just as we go on to you, you're very welcome to respond to some of Tom's points directly, although we will be coming to a point where we're responding to each other anyway. So anyway, over to you. You have 5 minutes.
Well, first of all, I want to affirm the terrific job that Tom and his group do in covering religion. They're like the AP of stories of faith, and we work with his colleagues all the time. It's a privilege to present with you. I'd like to say how honored I am for the invitation to be a part of this panel and this forum. This is my second experience. I was in Rabat, Morocco a year ago with many of you. This is also my second visit to the UAE in the last 6 weeks. I was here as part of an evangelical delegation 6 weeks ago at the invitation of the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi. And we met with government and religious leaders, and we were impressed with the tolerance and the protection of minority faith communities, freedom of worship. I can't think of a better place for a gathering like this than here in the UAE. I come to you not as an academic, but as a media practitioner, working over 4 decades in the field, media liaison, crisis communications at the intersection of faith and culture. And I think that we'd all agree that we live in challenging times. As has already been mentioned a number of times this week, technology has opened new vistas of opportunity, including the latest emerging technologies of social media that have really changed the way we communicate, not only through media gatekeepers like Tom and his group at Religion News Service, but now everyone is in essence a reporter, can go right to prioritized publics through social media. As a result, columnist Neil Gabler observed recently in my hometown paper in Dallas, Texas, that if information was once the grist for ideas, over the past decade, it's become competition for them. We prefer knowing to thinking because knowing has more immediate value. It keeps us in the loop, keeps us connected to our friends and our cohorts. And while these ideas may change the way we live, they rarely transform the way we think. Sound ideas have been replaced by sound bites in our culture, no more than 8 seconds. And what's encouraging to me about what's happening here this week is under the leadership of Sheikh bin Bayan, we are changing the way we think. We're seeking to understand before we're trying to be understood. And equally important, a spirit of humility, I believe, has permeated our gathering and these meetings, which is counterintuitive to the pride that I know I often encounter in some of similar gatherings among Christian groups. You may within your tribe as well. And as it relates to the elusive process of peace, I think that's the starting point, a spirit of humility as modeled by the principles and the teachings of Jesus. You know, Jesus taught about power as counterintuitive from that of governments or seeking status and needing to be on top. He came as a servant leader and restored the hierarchy of power, teaching that real power is in love and humbling oneself as a servant and as a slave. And let me pause to say, in the interest of full disclosure, that I am an evangelical follower of Jesus, but a Jewish rabbi friend of mine shared a concept that I think is foundational for our discussions today, namely that he explained the difference between the three Abrahamic faiths. He said that Jews observe the faith of Jesus. After all, he was a Jew. Muslims practice faith with Jesus. They see him, as you know, as a prophet. And as Christians, we celebrate faith in Jesus. So it's the faith of, with, and in Jesus, but he's the common denominator, not the differentiator that the media would have us believe. 6 weeks ago, I was privileged to meet that same delegation that was here in the UAE with His Royal Highness Mohammed bin Salman, or as referred to, MBS. We were the first delegation, non-government delegation, to be received since he has been a prominent focus in the news. And we asked His Royal Highness what message we could take back to the faith community in America. And he replied that Jesus is the Savior of the whole world. He's in both of our books. And when he returns, he is coming to judge the entire earth. Perhaps the principles and teaching of Jesus, which are foundation to all three faiths and the family of man, are part of the process we seek moving forward. Because Jesus emphasized relational integrity over intellectual accuracy. And that's what this gathering is all about, is a big part of what's happening is strengthening relationships. And in the short time we have together, we've had to truncate our time. I had a baker's dozen of principles I wanted to share with you, but instead I'm just going to share 3 or 4 principles related to the media role that could affect this pursuit of peace. And I have other principles that may come up in our Q&A later on. The first principle is, despite the proliferation of technology resulting in these new wineskins of available communications vehicles, the preeminent factor is still the message, having the correct message targeted to the right audience. And we have to make sure that we're focusing that right message at the right time and self-defining rather than being defined by pejoratively, perhaps by activists or others who might have an agenda. Secondly, principle 2 is that the largest number of people focused on the smallest point of agreement gives us results in the greatest impact. Think about that. The largest number of people, such as we have here, 900 people I understand from the 3 Abrahamic faiths, focused on the smallest point of agreement gives us the greatest impact. So what is that point of agreement? I think that the agreement that we seek is coming together with unity of purpose to seek common ground for amplified influence in coming against extremist ideology and terrorism. But more important than that, it's protecting our families, the safety of our families, and future generations. That's something in which we can all agree. And so I think that is what gives us influence and scope. And we need to tell the story of what is happening here. I know we're going to have a statement in a few minutes. We've had media here, but the extent to which the story of what is happening not only here, but through this movement is reported in the news, it's really going to help. Thirdly, the principle, and a very important principle, it's not that people don't know so much, but that they know so much that isn't so. Not that people don't know so much, but they know so much that isn't so. And I spend a great deal of my time in media relations reframing the picture on the ain't so. It's not that we can make black white, but rather emphasizing a brighter shade of gray and helping people understand what's really at stake. It's an education rather than just a an information process. And as it relates to media, as has been stated this week, they can be a force for good, but they can also be a part of the problem. And we all know about fake news. It's prevalent in America. Many media today, they don't report the news anymore. This is not the case with Tom's organization, but they operate out of narrative, and they find sources to advance their predetermined story. So even in our 24-hour news cycle, we've lost our public square, as the public now is not going to the news for information, but for validation. And I think an antidote to this fake news for us as religious communicators is to tell the truth, but to infuse it with grace, or in the Arabic vernacular, tolerance. We must remember that truth without grace can be debilitating, but grace without truth can be deceptive, and we need to maintain that proper balance. And then finally, the last principle I want to share with you is to recognize the colliding worldviews that sometimes exists, particularly between secular media and religion and religious leaders. I think that the purpose of many media organizations is to make money, package their news to build readership. They represent the Zeitgeist, the German word. I don't know if that translates, I apologize, but it means the spirit of the times. And for them, for something to exist or be true, you have to measure it. You have to see it. It has to be visible. But we represent matters of faith and purpose and a larger meaning to who we are and what we do. And the media sometimes just can't hear what they're saying because of these colliding worldviews. Finally, I would like to just say a word of encouragement. There have been many presentations today, this week, and much hallway discussion about theory and practice, but I've not heard anyone look at it from the perspective of the divine. And I believe that Father God is pleased with what has been happening here this week as we focused on what is special to His heart. Sure, it's important to us, but I believe it's special and pleasing to Him. And while on the treadmill early this morning, I was reading out of Psalm 33, and I'd just like to close with this, if you'll bear with me. It's out of the Christian Bible, but Hebrew Scriptures, and I'm sure that there's a parallel text in the Quran. And the verses from Psalm 33 say this: "From heaven the Lord looks down and sees all mankind. From His dwelling place He watches all who live on earth. He who forms the hearts of all, who considers everything they do. No king is saved by the size of his army. No warrior escapes by his great strength. A horse is a vain hope for deliverance. Despite all its great strength, it cannot save. But the eyes of the Lord are on those who fear Him, on those whose hope is in His unfailing love," which I believe includes everyone in this room, "to deliver them from death and keep them alive in famine. We wait in hope for the Lord. He's our help and our shield. In Him our hearts rejoice, for we trust in His holy name. May your unfailing love be with us, Lord, even as we put our hope in You." And that's my prayer for my fellow attendees and myself at this forum, that the Lord's unfailing love and favor will go back with us as we return to our respective homes and callings and continue this vital work. God bless you in all that you do.
Thank you very much, Larry. And I want to start asking questions of both of you already, but we're going to go on to Will, who I trust will have as much practical advice as we've heard already. But
Thank you, Peter. The risk in going last with such expertise is that they repeat what you were going to say, but given their experience and their expertise, you'll be glad to hear I've got some original thoughts as well, which I can add to the discussion. Like everyone here, I'm greatly honoured to be here as well. It's my first visit to the forum. I think it's been a fantastic experience, and I've heard so many stories from the many people from many different countries that are here. My primary experience is in the Western media. I hope that's relevant to 500 people from over 80 countries, where no media markets are the same, but I'm sure there are trends that we can talk about that cut across all your own experiences. When I advise people in this area and in politics as well previously, there's no point in worrying about what you can't control. And with the media, there's a lot you cannot control. You can only control what you do and how you take your own work with the media forward in the work that you do. So it can be very frustrating, but it's best to worry only about what you can control, otherwise you'll never get the spirit to take it forward. Yes, the media can be inherently biased against you or not willing to engage properly, but it's no journalist will turn down a good story. And so it's important for us to remember that, that truism will remain so, and that, as Larry mentioned, technology is changing media, so it gives us more opportunity and more influence than probably ever before, and I'll come to that later on. Driving the news agenda means an issue engages with policymakers and potentially changes policy. So the prize is huge, but unless you're lucky, great prizes only come to those who work hard to achieve it. A strategic approach to communications takes time, resources, and discipline, but it can give you the collateral, the materials that support media coverage you need to give to media to get the coverage from them that you want, and allow your arguments to reach your target audience. My primary experience is from working for a UK government in the 2000s that faced a hostile media that was probably 70 to 80% against their entire agenda. Now, that can be very frustrating, but there is no point in worrying about that. What we did was to come up with polling and come up with opinions and facts that we knew about our voters and the supporters that we wanted to reach. We were very systematic in understanding what issues motivated them, and we came up with media stories to support either keeping the voters that we had or winning over new supporters in the future, and crafted media stories that even hostile news organizations would cover because, as I say, all journalists like a good story. I believe this approach can be applied to most contexts, including areas this session are looking at and the areas that you're concerned with as participants. But any approach needs to be rooted in realism. None of us can do an awful lot about what drives news, what we call news values. They evolve over time, but really they've stayed the same ever since mass media began to be consumed. It's things like proximity. Is something that you are reporting or reading about in the media going to affect me? Is it close to me? Is it affect me? Prominence. Is it about something that I care about? Timeliness. Is it happening now or soon? Impact. Does it have a marked effect on me? Conflict. I'm afraid all audiences are more interested in disagreement often than agreement. And human interest, which is the aspect of a story that interests people because it describes the real experiences and emotions of individuals, which we can all relate to. When we think about conflict, we always think of wars, but actually, in news media terms, it's anything that is a lower order friction between two parties, anger, accusations, argument. None of us are going to change this fact. These news values are going to remain. It's part of the human condition that media organizations understand. More people are motivated to read about people disagreeing than agreeing. And media can play a positive or negative role in this area. If given the right material, they can amplify division, they can sow hatred, they can distort views, and they can feed conflict. Alternatively, they can create awareness amongst those with the power to do something about it or draw the right people to immediately resolve it. So we shouldn't automatically assume their role is negative. Whether they do that depends on the actors who assert their view. If those people who want to create and promote conflict get their message across effectively to media first, then they will shape the narrative. So as opponents have to be faster, we have to be faster, smarter, and better than them. We need to establish strong relationships, as Tom said. We need to respond with great speed to events or opportunities, either proactively or reactively. And we need to ensure we have simple, compelling messages that we can repeatedly make to challenge the opposition and win the argument. Sometimes it's assumed that once the bullets stop flying or people start getting along, this means media lose interest. But the process of peace building is a kind of technical and vital area. It can be a bit boring. When I think of interesting stories about peace building, I think of our own experiences in Northern Ireland, a conflict that divided the province of Ulster for many, many years, and thankfully is a more peaceful place now. After that peace agreement was signed, the media really latched on to the relationship between the former leader of the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, Martin McGuinness, and the Reverend Ian Paisley, who was a very strong figure in the unionist side, a really dominating figure of that scene. These are people who were mortal enemies for many, many years, who probably had paramilitary actors planning assassinations. And yet, when they became First and Deputy Minister of Northern Ireland, they laughed together, they joked together in public, they worked together behind the scenes. And the media reporting this relationship told all the people in Northern Ireland that this could be them, that if these two people can get on and run the country, then you can get along inside each other in your communities. So sometimes, these kind of little human interest stories within peace building can speak to a wider truth. Getting media to play a role in preventing conflict is a more challenging task, and we need to be creative and alive to the news values that I mentioned earlier and factor in how the media covers news. You need to turn your agenda into their agenda and make sure you align with their priorities, and we can achieve many things. Over the course of the last few days, I've met some remarkable people with some great stories, and the work that you're doing is interesting and vital. Your words and views can drive media narratives, but whilst words on their own work relatively well, proactive stories need something else to provide a news peg for the journalist. You've got to put yourself in the journalist's shoes. It's a competitive environment. They have to go to a news conference and make an argument why they want to cover this story. If they say, well, we've got some interesting quotes from someone or we've got some interesting views, that might get them the story. If they say we've got some data, we've got some polling, we've got some something that no one's ever seen before, we've got some research with policy recommendations, it makes their job easier. So think about that when you're contacting me, when you're giving them your press releases. Give them something that hasn't been seen before or something that's going to change the story and bring new information to something. Similar rules apply to op-eds and written pieces. I'm sure lots of people here have pitched.
30 seconds.
I'm sure a lot of people have pitched op-eds and been very frustrated that they haven't landed. And I just want to finish by talking about an op-ed that I did with Ed Hussein, who I'm sure many of you know, in 2015. Ed is a great thinker on this area, and there was an attack in Paris on the Charlie Hebdo offices, which was a huge story in the United Kingdom. In reaction to that, there's often more division, more distortion, more hate that comes up in the following coverage as various political actors and non-political actors try to capitalize on a conflict. Ed came up with a very quick and very crystallized argument which said two main things. He said, one, this is not a civilizational clash. Terrorists kill and operate in more Muslim countries than Western countries. This is a shared endeavor in challenging it. He also used a quote from Sheikh Abdullah bin Bayer, which said, when a neighbor's house is on fire, we all go to put it out. And this really captured the mood. And I'll just finish by saying this, Peter. That op-ed received some of the most shares of any other op-ed that year on The Guardian's website, a website that gets 120 million people a month. That metrics of sharing is really, really important in the new media environment. Media organizations are looking for stuff that people share via WhatsApp, via email, via their own social media. So if you can crystallize those arguments, get them to them quickly, get them shared by other people, then your stories and those arguments will reach whole new audiences and drive the news agenda and change the narrative. So I would say to you, we are in a very good position. Don't lose heart. Think about some of the tactics and areas that we've spoken about today and apply them in your own work, and I'm sure you will have great success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Will. Larry, I wanted to jump straight back to you because in terms of perhaps the closest experience to the reality of this conference in actually being the communications officer, the spokesperson for a figure that's trying to sell a good news story that doesn't necessarily correspond with all of those news values that Will was just talking about. How did you do that within the advice that has just been given to our audience by all three of you? How did you sell Billy Graham?
Well, first of all, it was a privilege for 33 years to be personal media spokesperson for Dr. Billy Graham. And there aren't two Billy Grahams. The one you'd see on TV or here in a stadium is the same person one-on-one. He was very authentic. integrity, transparent. So he was faithful to his calling, and even people, media who did not agree with him or believe his message respected him. And I think that that is something that is important as we talk about approaching the media. Strive for respect, not necessarily for agreement, but at least if they respect what you're doing. Mr. Graham, I believe, and of course it was my role and involvement, but I believe that his ability to make positive points for his message in any media situation was one of the distinctives of his ministry, not to take anything away from his preaching. But a media person could ask him how he got his suits dry cleaned on the road, and he would turn it into a way to get his message in. And I think the distinctives, there were three for Mr. Graham. He never approached media as marketing, always as ministry. He just saw it as an extension of a way to get his message out. Secondly, while many other pastors and evangelists were becoming more politically engaged, it wasn't his calling, he remained pastoral. And thirdly, when it came to addressing issues, Mr. Graham was never took an activist approach. He was always an advocate for the Christian faith, or for faith in general. And he showed how the Bible spoke to or addressed personal and societal problems, and I believe God honored his faithfulness in that regard.
And I think that we can agree that those values of a public persona and a private persona being exactly the same is something that we can see definitely in Shakespeare here. I'm being told that we're being moved towards the final session quite quickly, so I'm going to come back to you, Tom Gallagher, to talk about as the person. We have two media professionals on either side of you, and we have someone who runs a media service in yourself. If this conference was selling itself to you, and I suppose it has been for the last 3 days, what's your approach? What would make an event like this? What would make these kinds of gatherings, these kinds of conversations newsworthy from your perspective?
That's a good question. We're often asked to attend conferences of all kinds, and the editor makes a decision whether or not the conference is going to break news. So we go to conferences to be visible, to develop new friendships and relationships, but we may not find any real immediate news items or stories to break. Listening to a number of speakers, I could tick off great stories that they were referencing. So to sell a conference event to an editor, that editor is going to really need to be convinced that news is going to be broken and that it was worth showing up and spending time and allocating resources to come to a conference. So in the United States, we may say no to a lot of conference invitations. When I was invited to this, I knew immediately that I needed to be here. And so there are ways to package a conference, an event that would attract prominent media, and I'd be happy to talk with the forum about how to do that further. But just keep that in mind, that conferences generally don't break news, and therefore journalists don't have the resources to take time out to attend. One last item I'd throw out is when you produce surveys, polling, academic research, the easiest way for a journalist to digest it and then write a competent story is if that material comes with an executive summary. It sounds simple, but if you're trying to get a time-pressed professional to digest 40 pages of very technical information, it's a hard road to hoe. But if it comes with talking points, it's broken down, the highlights are presented in addition to the actual material, you stand a very good chance to get a competently written story about that piece of research.
Thank you. And I'm being slightly hesitant here because I'm just waiting for the signal that we need to get off the stage, but I'm going to keep us going until we get that signal. William, you have worked quite closely with let's say a controversial political figure in the UK who will remain nameless, and one of the challenges that you had, if I recall correctly, when you went into that job was building the kinds of relationships that Tom was talking about earlier with journalists who were instinctively skeptical of what you were trying to do and what the organisation you were working for was trying to do. So in terms of those relationship building with skeptical journalists, what was the approach that you took?
Well, quite a careful one. I mean, I generally find, and this is in a UK context and a little bit in the US, you generally get, some journalists are beyond the pale. They will have a set agenda. They will be kind of in one camp or another. Some journalists have very strong personal views, but a very, very rigorous professional approach. And some have a mix of both. With hostile journalists, you just need to understand their journalism and what they like to cover. A journalist might have a very strong view about someone you work for or an issue that you're confronting them with. But if they think they're going to get a front page story out of it, that quickly is replaced by a desire to get that story. Journalists are like anyone else. They care most about being good at their job, breaking news, getting front page stories and advancing their career. So you appeal to their self-interest, but you have to be very careful because they're not your friend. And, however good a relationship you have with them, everything's always on the record. And that's something I certainly always bore in mind when I worked in politics.
A useful cautionary note for us to finish on. And with that, I'm sorry, we can't take any questions. We're going straight into the final panel. So I would just ask you to thank our panelists, Larry Ross, Tom Gallagher, and William Neal.
And please thank our moderator. You did a terrific job, Chris. William, sorry. Peter, thank you, buddy.
ضيوف الكرام، بعد قليل إن شاء الله تبدأ الجلسة الختامية للملتقى الخامس لمنتدى تعزيز السلم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا ادخلوا في السلم كافة ادخلوا في السلم كافة ادخلوا في السلم كافة ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين فإن زللتم من بعد ما جاءتكم البينات فاعلموا أن الله عزيز حكيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا ضربتم في سبيل الله فتثبتوا ولا تقولوا لمن ألقى إليكم السلام لست مؤمنا 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 لا تقولوا لمن ألقى إليكم السلام لست مؤمنا تبتغون عرض الحياة الدنيا فعند الله مغانم كثيرة كذلك كنتم من قبل فمن الله عليكم فتبينوا فتثبتوا إن الله كان بما تعملون خبيرا صدق الله العظيم.
بارك الله فيكم. معالي العلامة الشيخ عبد الله بن بية رئيس منتدى تعزيز السلم في المجتمعات المسلمة، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة والغبطة والنيافة والفضيلة، الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. حان موعد جني ثمار هذا العمل الكبير وهذا الحلف المبارك الآن مع البيان الختامي للملتقى الخامس لمنتدى تعزيز السلم، يتلوه علينا سعادة الدكتور محمد مطر الكعبي الأمين العام للمنتدى، فليتفضل مشكورا.
مختصر البيان الختامي. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى أبيه سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى أخويه سيدنا موسى وعيسى وعلى جميع الأنبياء والمرسلين. أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، السيدات والسادة الحضور، انطلاقاً من قول الله تعالى: وتعاونوا على البر والتقوى ولا تعاونوا على الإثم والعدوان، وتيمناً بحلف الفضول الذي شهده نبي الإسلام عليه الصلاة والسلام قبل بعثته وأثنى عليه بعدها، وأبدى استعداده للمشاركة في مثله، مع أن رواده لم يكونوا مسلمين، لكونه حلفاً قائماً على مكارم الأخلاق والقيم الإنسانية المشتركة، بغض النظر عن أي معتقد ديني أو انتماء قبلي، وتحقيقاً لما سعى له المنتدى منذ أول انعقاده في إبريل عام 2014، وزكته توصيات الملتقى الرابع للمنتدى في ديسمبر 2017، وهو تأسيس حلف فضول جديد مع أولي بقية من العالم يدعو إلى المحبة والوئام والارتفاع عن نار الحروب إلى جنة الازدهار والنماء. فقد اختار منتدى تعزيز السلم في المجتمعات المسلمة لملتقاه السنوي الخامس موضوع حلف الفضول فرصة للسلم العالمي. واستضافت أبو ظبي عاصمة دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة هذا الملتقى في ختام عام زايد الحافل بالإنجازات، برعاية كريمة متجددة من راعي المنتدى سمو الشيخ عبد الله بن زايد آل نهيان وزير الخارجية والتعاون الدولي بدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة حفظه الله، ورئاسة معالي الشيخ عبد الله بن بية رئيس المنتدى، واستجاب لدعوة المنتدى نحو 800 مشارك من بلدان العالم المختلفة من العلماء والمفتين والقادة الدينيين والمفكرين والباحثين والإعلاميين، تؤازرهم نخبة من الوزراء ومسؤولين وممثلين الحكومات والمنظمات الدولية. وبين علماء الشريعة في هذا الملتقى مشروعية الأحلاف والمعاهدات في الإسلام، والحاجة الماسة إلى ترسيخها وحمايتها، ومراعاة تطويرها في صيغتها الوطنية، أي عقود المواطنة الحديثة والدولية. وتكاملت بحوثهم ومداخلاتهم مع القادة الدينيين من العائلة الإبراهيمية والمفكرين والباحثين في بيان المحاسن والقيم والمبادئ التي تجسدت في حلف الفضول، وموجبات الحاجة إلى حلف فضول جديد بالنظر إلى الأوضاع العالمية الراهنة والمخاطر الواقعة والمتوقعة الناجمة عن نتائج النموذج الحضاري الحاضر. كما تطرق المؤتمرون في جلسات هذا الملتقى وورشاته إلى دور الأديان في معالجة الأزمات الإنسانية الراهنة، وتعزيز السلم الأهلي وروح المواطنة والتعايش والتضامن والاستقرار في العالم، مشددين على مكانة المرأة والإعلام في خدمة هذه الأدوار والقيم النبيلة، ومنوهين بمسار دروب السلام من إعلان مراكش عام 2016 إلى إعلان واشنطن 2018 دون إغفال اقتراح آليات التطبيق والتنزيل ووسائل التفعيل لحلف الفضول الجديد. وازدانت الجلسة الافتتاحية للملتقى بتسليم سمو الشيخ عبد الله بن زايد آل نهيان جائزة الإمام الحسن بن علي رضي الله عنهما الدولية للسلم بالنيابة لكل من فخامة السياسي أفورقي رئيس دولة أرتيريا، ومعالي الدكتور أبي أحمد رئيس وزراء جمهورية أثيوبيا الفيدرالية الديمقراطية، لجهودهما الرائدة في صناعة السلام في منطقة القرن الإفريقي وإنهائهما صراعاً دام عقوداً. السيدات والسادة، التوصيات من أجل حلف فضول جديد: التوصية بإنشاء لجنة لإعداد ميثاق لحلف الفضول، ومقترح النصوص التنظيمية المتعلقة بتكوينه طبقاً لقوانين دولة المقر. الدعوة إلى المزيد من التفكير المشترك لوضع خارطة طريق وتقديم مبادرات علمية وميدانية لتحقيق أهداف حلف الفضول الجديد. التوصية أي توصية رواد حلف الفضول الجديد أن يرسخوا ويطوروا نموذج قوافل السلام ليصبح آلية للتعاون والتعايش وتقليداً يتم العمل على تعميمه والاستفادة منه. توصية القيادات الدينية المشاركة بالعمل على إشراك كافة العناصر الفعالة في المجتمع، وخصوصاً فئتي النساء والشباب، لما لهم من تأثير كبير على نجاح هذا النوع من المبادرات. التوصية بإدراج القيم المشتركة بين العائلة الإبراهيمية في مناهج التربية والتعليم على المستوى العالمي، والتعاون مع المؤسسات الدولية ذات الاختصاص كمكتب الأمم المتحدة للتعليم ومنظمة اليونسكو. التوصية بدعوة الإعلام ليكون شريكاً فعالاً في هذا الحلف من خلال التعريف وتسليط الضوء على النموذج الإيجابي والقصص الملهمة التي تساهم في نشر قيم السلم والتعايش بين الناس. كما يرحب المنتدى بالزيارة المرتقبة للبابا فرانسيس بابا الفاتيكان، التي تمثل تتويجاً لجهود دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة في نشر التسامح والاعتدال ونشر السلام في العالم، منوهين بكامل الجهود التي يقوم بها البابا فرانسيس في مجال الضيافة والجوار مع توصيات وموضوع هذا المنتدى. ويطيب للمشاركين في الملتقى الخامس لمنتدى تعزيز السلم في المجتمعات المسلمة التعبير عن فائق الشكر وجزيل الثناء لدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة على كريم ضيافتها، مشفوعين بأسمى عبارات الامتنان إلى صاحب السمو إلى صاحب السمو الشيخ خليفة بن زايد آل نهيان رئيس الدولة حفظه الله، وإلى صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم نائب رئيس الدولة رئيس مجلس الوزراء حاكم دبي، وصاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن زايد آل نهيان ولي عهد أبو ظبي نائب القائد الأعلى للقوات المسلحة، وإلى أصحاب السمو حكام الإمارات حفظهم الله. كما يتوجه المشاركون في هذا الملتقى إلى العلي القدير بالدعاء بالرحمة والمغفرة وعلو الدرجة والمنزلة للأب المؤسس القائد الشيخ زايد بن سلطان آل نهيان طيب الله ثراه، وبدوام الاستقرار والأمان والرخاء والسعادة والريادة في هذه الأرض الطيبة، أرض دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، والحمد لله الذي تتم بنعمته الصالحات، وشكرا.
يسعد منتدى تعزيز السلم أن يعبر عن امتنانه لنخبة وصفوة من الذين رافقوا مسيرته وساندوه والتأموا حول مشروعه، وهم كثيرون الحمد لله، ولكن في هذا الملتقى سنقتصر على نخبة منهم. وبعضهم أصبح جزءا من المنتدى وأصبح عضو مجلس أمنائه. بعد حوالي 5 دقائق إن شاء الله سننادي على أسماء النخبة المختارة للتكريم في هذه المناسبة بإذن الله، فأرجو أن تبقوا معنا.
حصل التسامح التضامن حاصل، والانتصار على التخلف معه. ولا يمكن أن يكون فيه تضامن متكامل إلا بالتسامح. هذا مفتاح التضامن وعدم الفرقة. عدم الفرقة هو التسامح. إذا حصل التسامح
لو قلنا أن نحن مسلمين ولكننا ننظر كذلك للأديان السماوية كافة كلها أنها أديان هي تقصد عبادة الله والخشوع لله سبحانه وتعالى الذي خلقه.
وانطلاقا من القناعة بأن السلام العالمي الدائم لا يمكن تحقيقه إلا من خلال تحقيق السلام بين الأديان، أطلق منتدى تعزيز السلم مبادرة دولية لبناء تحالف بين الديانات العائلة الإبراهيمية الكريمة والفلسفات العالمية على أساس تتجاوز منطلق الجدل الديني إلى منطق التعارف والتعاون وتحكيم المواثيق الدولية وروح القيم الإنسانية والفضائل المشتركة.
فنحن نبحث عن أولي بقية من العالم، أي أولي عقول وتمييز، لنكون معهم حلف الفضول. حلف فضول يدعو إلى السلام، يدعو إلى المحبة والوئام، يدعو إلى الارتفاع عن وهدة الحروب إلى ربوة الازدهار وربوة البناء.
ولأن الأديان كالطاقة يمكن أن تصنع منها الحدائق وتجلب الرفاهية والازدهار، وقد تتحول إلى قنابل مدمرة تجلب الخراب وتترك الديار يبابا. انطلق حلف الفضول بين الأديان من أبو ظبي ليضيء شعلة الأمل لتكاتف الأديان نحو عالم متعايش وكوكب سعيد، ليبني خطابا جميلا معتدلا تتميز مفرداته بالحب والاحترام والحرية والمسؤولية. نرسخ مبادئ جديدة لا غلو فيها ولا تطرف، مبادئ تجعل من السلام شعارا ومن أرض زايد وطنا.
عفوا نستأنف بعون الله تعالى أطوار هذه الجلسة. فقط من باب التنبيه، البيان الذي تلاه على مسامعنا سعادة الدكتور محمد مطر الكعبي هو بيان مختصر يركز على التوصيات، لكن هناك نسخة كاملة للبيان بالنتائج والتوصيات موزع عليكم أو ستوزع عليكم إن شاء الله قريبا باللغتين العربية والإنجليزية. الآن إذن ننادي على قائمة الأسماء المكرمين، ونبدأ بفلسطين والقدس، وكل الأفئدة تهفو إلى القدس. فضيلة الشيخ محمد أحمد حسين. معالي الدكتور محمد مختار جمعة، وزير الأوقاف بمصر. بكر عثمان أحمد، وزير الأوقاف السوداني. معالي الدكتور فيصل بن معمر، الأمين العام لمركز الملك عبد الله للحوار. سعادة الأستاذ الدكتور أمل جلال، رئيس جامعة القرويين بالمغرب. معالي السيد أمير أورجونجو. سعادة الأستاذ ويليام فيندلي، رئيس منظمة أديان من أجل السلم. فضيلة الدكتورة عائشة العدوية، عضو مجلس أمناء المنتدى. سعادة السيدة معالي السيد أمير أورغونغو، سعادة السيدة الواد إلمان، رئيسة مؤسسة إلمان. فضيلة الشيخ إمام ماجد، إمام مركز آدم بواشنطن. حضرة القس بوب روبرت، رئيس كنيسة نورث وورد بتكساس. ستأخذ وقتا. حضرة الأستاذ ديفيد سيبرستين، رئيس مركز العمل الديني للإصلاح اليهودي.
موجودة قربنا.
فضيلة الدكتورة أماني لوبيس عضو مجلس أمناء منتدى تعزيز السلم تتسلم الرمز التكريمي بالنيابة عنها والدتها الأستاذة الجامعية القديرة. سماحة الدكتور شوقي عبد الكريم علام مفتي جمهورية مصر العربية. ومش أخيراً. حضرة الأستاذ جورج سليم المستشار بمؤسسات ADL. حضرة السيد بروس ليستيك حاخام التجمع العبري بواشنطن. ما كاينش موجود. فضيلة الشيخ محمد رفيع عثماني مفتي باكستان. ما تحتاجوش كاع. ما بقيش. فضيلة الشيخ عبد الله علي سالم عضو مجلس أمناء المنتدى. فضيلة الدكتور محمود عبد الزبير عضو مجلس أمناء المنتدى. وختامه مسك فضيلة الدكتور مصطفى سيريج عضو مجلس الأمناء.
من قلع هذه كوشنوان؟ شوفي مكتوب قدامك كوشنوان من قال لك تقلع؟ مين قال لك تسوي؟ موجودة. She's here. مين قال لك انه موجود؟ They take off so many people. مين قال لك تشيل الناس؟ ما شلنا ابدا. ما شلنا حد announce it now with everyone.